Welcome to the house that Russ built. If you've not been here before, watch one of our other videos. I think you'll enjoy it. This is our 77 Ford truck, from a long bed to a short bed. Watch along to see how we did this. Okay, what we've done here is we've measured out 16 inches. We're going to do what they call a Z cut, where it goes down like this, and down like this. We'll do the same thing up here, where when they put them back together, it will key together. This is the part where we've had trouble finding information. We take 16 inches out of this frame, just like the earlier model truck. We know that the frame is slightly wider. When we get into that, we have not done one of these trucks before. We'll assess that situation to figure out how to line it back up. I've seen how other shops have done it. We may try something different. We may do it exactly the same way they've done it. We just have to weigh out our situation when we get in there. But for right now, we're just going to be concerned with cutting our stuff out. We've already put the truck on jack stands and got the truck completely level front to back and side to side. You want this thing as level as you can get it. A lot of other shops have, we've seen, we'll pull all the suspension off. We do it with the suspension on. The main thing is do it the way you're most comfortable with and proficient at. One thing to note is the brake line on the driver's side unscrews, and then all you have to do on it is shorten it to the length you need it. The fuel line apparently is two-piece there as well. You take out what you don't need of it. The only thing you have to cut, and we made a mistake on ours unfortunately, is there's a steel line on this. It's a return line or a vapor line, and we didn't realize until after we'd already cut the line that there's a rubber connection underneath where you could cut it. So what we'll do is we'll put our line back together with a compression fit. On further trucks, we will cut it underneath where the rubber fitting is. Cut to the inside of my marking. And if I have to cut back through a little bit, I'm not having to fill up a huge gap, hopefully. Come on. That's the direction I thought it was going. That's as easy as that. At this point, there's no going back. Well, I guess you could. It'd be a lot harder. One thing I forgot to mention when we were doing this is I drilled all my corners. That way when I got to the corner, I didn't have to worry about having to go back in with a Sawzall or something like that. Some people use plasma cutters. I'm not a fan of plasma cutter. I think you get in trouble cutting too fast with that. I like my 4.5 inch chop saw or cutoff wheel. Sawzall works very good for this as well, but you still need something to cut your horizontals with. It goes back to use the method that you are the most proficient with. Don't let other people tell you how to do something. do it the way that you do it the best.
Okay.
Okay, what we wound up doing is using a couple of different methods. We used part of a method that we've seen a lot of other people use. I don't really like it, but it was all we could do at the moment. We split it here and pulled it in. But a lot of people are also splitting them back here and back in here and pulling the other part out to match. We didn't do that because the least amount of cuts you can put into a frame, the stronger it's going to be. We are going to box our frame, and we're going to plate our frame as well. So we don't have a whole lot of issue with or concern about the frame cracking. But what we wound up doing, we pulled it in until it matched on the top here, and then we welded all that down on both sides. Well, on the bottom, it did not match. It was in, however much the frame's still off, or it pulled it in past it. So what we did is, we took our porta power and started working it out without heat. And then once we got it to where our seam right here matched, we welded that on both sides. We got everything as even as we can. Keep in mind, through this whole process, we're checking for square over and over and over. We don't just chance that we got it right the first time. And in our case, our exhaust was in the way, so we pushed from the top and got the top to match, and then we flipped our porta power underneath and spread from the bottom to push the bottom out. And then once we got it all welded in, then we took a torch and relaxed the metal to its natural state. A lot of people are going to be concerned with heating the frame. You're already heating the frame to weld it. So the biggest thing is do not rapidly cool the frame. That's where you run into issues. If you let the frame cool on its own, right now it's 100 degrees in our shop, so it's going to cool very slowly. If we were doing this in the winter time, we may want to keep going back and heating these areas so they don't cool too quickly. The next process we're going to do is we're going to cut our plates out. We're going to clean our welds. We're not going to grind our welds away. We're just going to clean them enough that our plate will comfortably lay over top of it. We'll cut a plate and weld it all in around the outside. And once we get the outside all welded in, and then we'll take another piece of plate and shape it to the shape of the frame rail and come all the way back to this rail and as far as we comfortably can underneath the cab and make a box section. But we will have to cut, I like to cut an oval so it doesn't have any square corners. We will cut an oval on the inside so we can get to our bolt holes, put our bolts back in. In this one's case, somebody's running a electric fuel pump. They'll also be able to get to the electric fuel pump to service it. We'll pick up with this in a little bit as we get a little further along. What we've done here is we've plated the outside of this frame to prevent it from cracking. A lot of people like to plate a frame and use square corners. It's not advisable. That makes the place it can crack. What we always do is we cut our plates in an oval shape to the best of our ability. On these trucks we don't quite have enough room to make a complete oval shape, so we end up having to change our pattern just a little bit. And we always like to do a through weld, or what some people call speed holes, and we'll weld in the center. That way if it happened to crack anywhere, for some reason, it's still got a place that's attached. We already did the other side. It came out very well. This side seems to come out pretty good. Next, we're going to box the frame. When we do one at 10 Man Customs, we really like to box our frames. It's a lot stronger. We don't have to worry about places like this. We'll box back to past that joint. That will prevent the frame from cracking there. Some people like to do this, some people don't. It's a little bit overkill, but when you're working on somebody else's vehicle, it's always better to go above and beyond. the call of duty than find out later that you had an issue. So we always go a little bit above and beyond. Come back to you here in a minute on this. What we've done here is we've boxed the inside of the frame just to add a little bit of structure in our splits. That way it doesn't have a place where it can start a crack. Doesn't really add any structure as far as twisting or anything like that. Obviously from our opening there we have to get to our bolts, and on the opposite side to get into our electric fuel pump, our brake line split, and our electrical wiring. Everything on this side has to have that. I just always mirror everything on this side just in case it's needed later on. But this will prevent these lines right here from splitting. Okay, this is our 77 Ford truck finished up. You can see that our body lines come out real nice. From a distance, even just when we primed it simply, you can't hardly tell it. It may need just a very thin skim of body filler over this whole thing. Note on the truck that the wheel is now perfectly centered in the wheel arch. I don't know if they do that on the regular short beds, but I know in all of the long bed conversions we've done, the wheel has landed perfectly in the wheel arch, which is really nice because most of the time you have to modify the suspension to get that. They either sit too far forward or too far back. This is our other side we finished up. It came out really, really nice. Notice that the bed gap is really clean. Notice that there's no warps in the side of this bed the way we done it. A little light touch of body filler and a little bit of satin black paint and a little bit of faux art to put the rust lines back in it, and this truck will look like it's never been cut. Matter of fact, we've had several customers come in and not realize it's ever been cut. I think if a person takes their time and really tries, I don't think this will be a bad project. It took us 3 8-hour days to do all this, and we cut down the top chrome. We had intended on cut down the bottom chrome, but I waited to talk to the customer before I cut that one. It was a little more invasive.